Hi everybody. So we're going to talk today about tracing opposed surface areas, which are the contact between the cell and anything in the external environment, such as an input or any other type of process, or even extracellular space. And extracellular space is what I'm going to be tracing today, but the principles are the same for an input or any other process. So you start by creating an object. I've already created the object here, but you can go to Edit, Object, New to create an object. We're going to look at the type of object that was created. We've named it extracellular space. You'll notice that we're using an open object type. The difference between a closed object type and an open object type is that the contour won't automatically close if it's an open object type. So instead of drawing circles, we're basically drawing lines. You also want to make sure that Start New Contour at New Z is checked. Otherwise, you'll end up drawing one contour across all of your Z slices rather than drawing individual contours on each slice. I set my line width to 3. You can use whatever's comfortable for you. It shouldn't change anything. I'm going to change my color here. It's a little bit easier to see. Let's use a green. There we go. And you can use whatever color you'd like. And once that's set up, all you have to do is start tracing. We're going to trace this extracellular space here. You can usually go about every 3 slices. Sometimes, depending upon how things change, you may want to go every slice. Just depends upon how quickly things change. See, here things aren't changing terribly quickly. I can go every slice if I want to, but there's not really much need. There we go. Alright. Now we'll continue tracing here. Now here, this contour actually broke into 2 pieces, one that should be here and one that should be here. What we're going to do is we're going to use a break and join command to create new surfaces. Now, you can think of surfaces as different hexagons on a soccer ball. So there's a single object, which is the soccer ball, but each hexagon is actually an individual object that when stitched together makes a complete object. And we use surfaces to do that. Surfaces are important in that they tell iMod what should and shouldn't be connected. So for instance, here when this breaks, you don't want this piece connected over to this piece in any way. So you have to make a surface here and a surface here. We'll also need to go back and make a surface here for this piece. We can go ahead and just bring this around for right now. There we go. Alright. So, step 1, so we're going to open the break window. So you go to Edit, Contour, Break. It brings up the break window. And once this window is up, you can use the break hotkey, which is Control B. But in order to use that, you have to make sure that you have this checked. Use current point for 1. That way it always uses the current point that you're on to break the contour. Alright. We can minimize that. Now we also want to copy this contour, and I'll show you why. So say we don't copy this contour and we just create a couple of new contours here and here with no new surfaces. Well, let's go to our model view, zoom in some here, and find our spot. Bring up our object window. can also use a list to turn everything on and off. So if you hit Shift L in the model view window, it brings up a list. And you can hit New to create a new object group and hit Off. Others off. There we go. To turn off everything. Now we still want the cell body. And we want our extracellular space object. And that is right here. Okay. So zoomed in, we've got our extracellular space object. Let's turn off the cell body for right now so we can see what we've got. You can see we started up here, traced down to here, and now we've split into two pieces. Now let's try meshing that. If we go to our objects window, make sure we're on our correct object that we want to mesh. Go down here, select meshing. We've gone every slice, so we're going to say skip 1. We're going to include surfaces even though we don't have any surfaces beyond the original right now. This is going to be a setting that we'll use throughout in order to make sure that iMod uses the surfaces that we create. We'll hit Mesh 1. And what you'll see here is that the mesh doesn't look quite right. The contour that we drew over here is now connecting all the way over here. And the second contour that we drew is erroneously connecting to just one point back here. So this is why surfaces are necessary. This creates a lot of additional opposed surface area that isn't actually there. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix this so that it's just a single flat sheet with one break. So in order to do that, we need to go back to our main iMod window. We need to go to Edit, Surface, and Go To. That will tell us how many surfaces we have and allow us to navigate within each surface using this Contour and Surf option. We also need to have some way to move these contours to a different surface. So that's done through the Edit, Contour, Move option. Usually we use this to move contours between objects, but there's a selection here, Move Contour to Different Surface, not Object. So we'll select that. Alright. Now, we also need one more window. As I said before, we need to have a copy of this. And the reason for that is that we need one contour here that will connect with this contour, and a second contour that will connect with this larger contour. And it's ideal that the copy of this be exactly overlaid with the original so that everything is continuous. We don't get any weird breaks or changes when we try to mesh this. So we need another window, and that's going to be the Edit, Contour, Copy window. And we want to change this selection from Copy to Objects to Duplicate. And that will allow us to duplicate the contour that we currently have selected. Alright, now I want to check one thing before we go. I think I erroneously hit the break option. And if I did, that means that we have a contour with one point, which would explain why we have this sort of mesh with this converging to one point. Just want to double check and see whether or not I did that. The way you can tell that is if you go to Contours here, and you scroll through your contours, if you find a contour with just a single point, you should delete it using Shift D. Alright, so we should be ready to go then. So our first step is to copy this contour. And since we have our copy window up, even though it's in the background, we can use a quick key, which is Shift K, to copy this contour. The way that we'll know that it copied, it'll say copy operation completed, and we'll have one more contour in our list. We want to go to that contour. Alright. You can also, instead of just clicking on these buttons, you can use the C and Shift C commands to go back and forth through your contours. Alright, so we have a contour. We want to select a spot to break it. So we want to scroll through the points on this contour, and we can use the open and closed brackets to scroll through points. You can also use Shift and the open bracket to go to the beginning of the contour, Shift and the closed bracket to go to the end of the contour. Right now, I'd say we'll break it about there. Now, since we still have our break window up, even though it's in the background, we can use our break hotkey, Control B, and you'll see that the end of the contour moved from here back to here. So this means that we have two contours now, contour 8, and you'll see that we went up to 9 contours, and contour 9. And those two contours are going to represent the first contours in our new surfaces. Alright, now we have two contours to make our new surfaces. We're going to go to our Move Contour window. And a nice feature of the Move Contour window is when you hit this up arrow, it will not let you go past the next empty surface in your object. So currently we have all of our contours on surface 0, and we want to move contours to surface 1 and then to surface 2. So we'll move this guy to surface 1. We can either hit apply here, or we can press Shift M, and this will have moved to surface 1. The way you can tell that is if you open up your Go to Surfaces window, you'll see we're now on surface 1. We can go back to surface 0, and it'll take us back to the first contour in surface 0, which is contour 1. Also, you'll notice that if we scroll through all the contours and we end up on a contour not on surface 0, it'll automatically switch here. Okay. So now we want to move this guy to surface 2. So we have two new surfaces. Go back to our Move Contour window, and you'll see now that it'll allow me to go up to surface 2, but it won't allow me to go any further because this is the next blank surface. So we'll hit apply. This is now on surface 2. And now we can go down and move these contours to their respective surfaces. So this one should be on surface 1. This one should be on surface 2. Alright, now let's take a look at how that affects our mesh. So here's the mesh that we had. Pretty broken. We'll bring up our objects window here and hit mesh 1 again. Notice we still have surface selected, so it's actually going to be looking at our surfaces in order to create the mesh. And there we go. We have something that looks a little more reasonable. This piece is connected appropriately to the upper contour. This smaller piece is broken off accordingly. So that is how to break into multiple surfaces. The opposite would be if you had two contours that came together, and you would do literally the opposite of what we've just done, which is you would take two contours and instead of breaking them, you would join them and move them to a new surface. And let's see if I can find an example for that. Alright. See our one contour disappears here. Next one is here. And this guy disappears. Let's go fishing for some more extracellular space then. right here. Now this is a completely new section, so we want to create a new surface to trace on here. Now instead of having to go in and move all of our contours after we've traced them, you can press Shift N as in Nancy before you start tracing, and every time you trace, it will go onto a new surface. So currently we should be on surface 3. We'll take a look at our surface window, and yes, we're on surface 3. So we can keep tracing on surface 3. This guy goes a little further here. Here we go. We can use this as an example. So this is a piece of our cell that breaks off, and it looks like the extracellular space continues on to this piece. Now, in this case, since we've already been tracing these contours, we would usually use a break command here, but I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to assume that we've been tracing along here, and all of a sudden we run into a spot where we should join the two. So imagine, if you will, we have two surfaces. Surface 4, and over here we have surface 5. There we go. And we want them both to merge here into surface 3. So we already have a surface 3 contour here. What we need to do is we need to overlay a surface 4 contour here and a surface 5 contour here so that our mesh is continuous. So we will copy this contour, Shift K to copy it. We will go to that contour, which should be the last contour in our list. So 18, there we go. We'll use our bracket keys to scroll through our points to find a reasonable spot to break it. And that looks pretty good. And we hit Control B to break that contour. Now you'll see we have this contour and this contour. And each of those needs to be moved to their respective surfaces. So this contour goes to surface 4. The next contour goes to surface 5. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll select this contour, go to the Move Contours window, surface to move contour to, surface 4. We'll go back here and go to our next contour. There we go. Surface to move contour to, surface 5. Okay. Now we'll go to our mesh window. Now you'll notice that none of these contours are showing up on here. The reason being is that we haven't remeshed this object yet. So it's only showing the mesh for the contours that we had drawn when we meshed the object. So in order to show our new contours, we go to our Objects window, go to Draw Data Type, change it to Contour. There we go. Alright. Now, what we'll want to do is we'll go to Meshing, Mesh 1. And there we go. There's our other contours. And you'll see there's a small contour that hooks up seamlessly with the larger. And there's another larger contour over here that also hooks up with this larger contour. So that's the basics of opposed surface areas. Um, Not really a whole lot more to it. The breaking and the joining is particularly important. If you want to view your surfaces in the model view window, you know, you can either be in mesh or in contour mode. You go to subsets, current surface only, and it will show you either the mesh or the contours for your current surface. And you can scroll through your surfaces on the surface window here, and it will bring up the contours in each surface. There we go. Alright, so that is the basics of opposed surface areas. If you want to know the total surface after you've created your mesh, so say we have all of this as extracellular space, and we want to know how much surface is covered by extracellular space. If we go to our 3D mod window, as long as we're on the correct object, we go to Edit, Object, Info, and here in the window it will tell us mesh surface area is 1.09 square microns. So that's the amount of surface area that's taken up by extracellular space in the model that we've just created. That gives you a size for your terminals or for any object that is touching the surface of your cell. Alright, well, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and good luck.